Alright, so let's move to the final topic, that is the vSAN, that is virtual SAN. So SAN, we have already seen, that is the storage is somewhere else. We are using the network in order to communicate with the uh, networking storage. So virtual SAN is also similarly same like that, but the only difference is that what we are going to do is that we are going to take the ESXi host hard disk of the multiple ESXi hosts. So I will say ESXi 1, 2, and 3. We are going to take those hard disks which are not claimed. So we are going to club those hard disks into one single storage. So now that one single storage, now for example, this one hard disk is 150 GB, then altogether three of them will combine to 450 GB. And in that 450 GB, you can configure that one as a RAID 0, 1, 5, or 10 according to your what are the. So by default, it should be going on a RAID 0. For I think we can also configure RAID 1, 5, and 10. So that's the another benefit for that virtual SAN. So the overall use of the virtual SAN is that the files are not stored on the single hard drive. Multiple files are being stored on the multiple hard drives. So it will just spread the storage all across to the hard disk so that you do not lose the whole data at once. Now, the requirement for that one, for the in order to work the vSAN to work, is that you need to have at least a dedicated NIC and a dedicated port group for that one. All right. So next, another requirement is that we need to have at least two hard disks. So one will be acting as a cache, another one is for the storage. Alright, so what I'm going to do is that I do have the XI 1, 2, and 3. For that one, I will make sure that I do have two NICs. And after that, I will make sure that they do have three hard disks. One is already claimed, that is, we already installed ESXi on that one. Another two hard disks, I will just add it, but I will not claim it. I will not create a data store for that in that particular ESXi. All right. So once I have attached these two hard disks to all the three ESXi, next I will go ahead and add those three ESXi hosts to the particular cluster. I will create one cluster with these three ESXi, and for that cluster, I will push the distributed switch. So that is VDS switch. And in that VDS switch, what I will do is that I will use one of the uplinks, one of the NICs dedicated to the vSAN, and I will also enable the vSAN option on that particular NIC. Right, so first thing first, so what I will do is that first I will go ahead and set up my ESXi machine. So my ESXi machine should have two NICs and I should have two hard disks. So including the default one, I should have three hard disks. So let me go to the ESXi now. Alright, so let me configure this one, which is not correct. Okay, so if I right click on this one, and you see that I do have only one adapter to that one, so I will click on add one more adapter and I will add it to the bridge one, click on OK. It's restoring that one. So similarly what I will do, I will also add two hard disk that should be 150 GB each, and I will add one more hard disk that should be 150 GB each, and finish and click on OK. It should reboot. It did not reboot, not a problem, but still I will reboot it so that it will detect those ones. IPv4, I will make sure that it has an IP address of 192.168.1.103, and the default gateway will be 192.168.1.1. Exit and yes, and the config has been saved. So I will do a right click, power, and power off. and power back on. I will go to the R ESXi2, I will shut it down. I will go to ESXi3, I will power off. And next I will edit it. However, I just need to add the hard disk. That should be next and 150 GB. Next and finish. And add next and 150 GB. Next and finish. Click on OK. Start the virtual machine. Click on edit for ESXi1. Click on add. Next and 150 GB. And next and 150 GB. Alright, so my ESXi hosts are all ready and good to go. They only require just waiting for them to boot up now. Now let's go back to my vCenter server. This is my vCenter server. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one more data center that should be DC2. And within that data center, I will create one more cluster that should be CLU2 and click OK. And within that cluster, I will add my 3 of the ESXi. So I will just run. So let me see if that has been booted. So 37, it has got the IP address, which I don't want it. So let me change that one. So that configure network IPv4, that should be 103. And yes, that should be good. So this one is 102. So ESXi1 is 101, 102, and 103. So I'm just waiting for the ESXi1 to come up. So now until then what I can do is that I can just right click on the data center to click on new distributed switch, and I will say that VDS2, click on next. I'm selecting the version 7, that's okay. So uplinks 4, that should be more than enough. And first one should be management. I will just use that one, or I will say that vSAN directly. Click on next and finish. So now in the distributed switch, I do have only one port group, so I will right click and I will say that add a new port group that should be acting for the VMs. Click on next and click on next and finish. So I do have two port groups. One will be used for the vSAN, another one will be used for the normal traffic. Alright, so now let me go back and see if my ESXi1, 2, and 3 are up and running. That's fantastic. Now go back to the host, go to the cluster, right click and click on add host, and I will say 192.168.1.101, and I will copy that one. Username will be root password, and I will click on add host. I will say use the same credentials. That should be 102 and that should be 103. So click on next, accept the certificate for all the three, click on next, click on finish. So let the cluster, let the host assign to the cluster, and after that we are going to finish the cluster setup. And after that, since the port groups are already created, my distributed switch is already there. The only thing what I have to do is that I need to, what do we say, move that particular NIC to the distributed switch. So currently what I am going to do is that I will mainly focus on the vSAN only. So on my distributed switch, one is the VMs, another one is the vSAN. So when I add the host to this particular VDS2 switch, what I'm going to do is that I am going to assign only one NIC, so that is NIC 1. So NIC 0, that is the management one, so I will keep it like that. I will not disturb it. I will use only NIC 1 that will be migrated to the distributed switch. So once that is been migrated, I will make sure that this port group is specifically going to access to that particular NIC. So that is what I'm going to do now. So currently it is still in the CLI. Okay, so everything seems to be fine. So quick start, I'm just waiting for that quick start to show up. So there should be something running over here. You see that it is still running, processing data. So once that is being run, we will finish up with the cluster. Then we will go ahead and add the, what do we say, the vSAN adapters. All right. So now with the vSAN, since it is working on the network, so we have to make sure that we do also provide the IP address. So I will go to the individual host because they do have a NIC 1, 0 and 1 connected. To the all NIC 1s, I will provide one IP address. So I will use the same subnet as 192.168.1.0/24, but I will go with the ESXi1 as .61, .62 and .63. So that is what I am going to provide that one, and the default gateway will be .1 for everyone. All right, so I'm just waiting for this to be completed. So once that is being completed, we will start up with our vSAN configuration. All right, so it is taking time to load that one. So what I will do is that I will go to the ESXi host, click on configure, go to the VM kernel adapter. So currently you can see there is only one adapter. So if I select that one, click on edit, and it is only used for management. So I don't want to use this the same adapter for the vSAN also. I will click on cancel. So I will click on add networking, and I want to add the VM kernel network adapter. Click on next. Select the existing switch because I do have this particular switch 0 created in that one. Click on next, and I will say the name as vSAN, and make sure that you select vSAN because that's what the particular adapter will be used for. Now the MTU, if you want to set it up as a custom, you can go ahead and set it up as custom, but for now I should be default should be enough. Now if you're using a VLAN, so you can also use a VLAN. So VLAN 0, 1, 2, 3, but if you're using it, it should be, if it used to be or it should be a trunk, then you select the 4095. So TCP IP stack is the default, just don't change anything. So click on next, and now it is asking me to provide the IP address. So I will select the static one because I have set it up as a 61, because with the DHCP it might get a different address. So 61, that's all good. Default gateway is good. If it is not correct, then you will select this one and you will override your default gateway. So click on next, and you see that the vSAN port group is been, I think vSAN port group is created, I think new port group in the switch 0, and we are specifically you looking for the vSAN should be enabled. Click on finish, and now we should have that adapter. So I will go to the same thing, second host, add networking, click on next, existing, select the switch, click on next, and I will also say for the same name vSAN, select the vSAN, no changes, click on next, use the static one, that should be 192.168.1.62 and 255.255.0. Click on next, next, and finish. That's fantastic. Now let's go to the last one, that should be VM kernel. Select the existing switch, switch 0, next, and vSAN, and vSAN. Click on next and next. 63. Click on next and finish. That's good. So now if I right click, go to the distributed switch, let me see if I'm able to add the host, because my the what do we say cluster is not up and running. So I will click on add host, click on next, add the host. I should see all three. That's fantastic. Click on next, next. Now VMNIC 1 I want to assign uplink. Click on assign uplink to 1, apply to all of them. That's it. That is the only one. I'm not touching anything with the VMNIC 0. Click on next. And now I want to migrate this one, assign to the port group, because VMNet 1 vSAN, right? So port group, I will assign it to the port group, apply for all the changes, click on OK. So click on next. And I don't have virtual machine, so I'm not worried about it. Click on next and click on finish. So that should be, if I go to the vSAN now, if I go to configure and maybe where is the topology? Okay, it is still building up the topology. So I should see that the three hosts are connected. That is good. If I go to monitor, issues, configure, policies, permissions, ports, host. So these are the three hosts. Still, I think it is all connected now. But if I go to VDS, configure and topology, and if I select uplink 1, you see that it is connecting to the VM as well as for my VM kernels for the vSAN. Alright, so I think we are almost now ready to configure the vSAN. So next thing is that I need to go back to the host and cluster, click on this one, click on configure and storage devices. Now you see that I do have multiple storage. So this is the data store which is being claimed, but the other data store which is the this one and this one which are not yet claimed. Okay, so that is good. So device drive type, what I will do is that I will can't change anything. So what I will do is that one of the flash drive I will mark it as a flash. So I will say mark as a flash drive. Marking hard disk as a flash drive could deteriorate the performance of the data store. That's fine because I am doing the lab and it should mark that hard disk as the flash drive. So you see that now the device type has been changed to flash. So similarly for all of them, what I will do, I will select any one of the hard disks because I do have two of them. I will say mark as flash and I will go back here and I will again select the first one. I will select mark as flash. So in the vSAN, one of the hard disks will be acting as a flash, which will be used for the cache, another one for the actual hard disk. Now, let's go back to the cluster now. I think everything we are ready. So configure, let's go back to the vSAN cluster. Licensing data is not available, only cluster with enable vSAN required license. Okay, so I think I am under the licensing, so we don't worry. Supervisor, not this one. So it should be configure, quick start, general, data store. Okay, so I think because the cluster has not finished with the quick start, so that's why it might be giving me the problem. You see that processing data still. So yep, and vSAN cluster licensing. And until then, what I will do is that I will also assign the licenses. All right, so for the, let me go back to the administrator, going to the licensing, click on add a new license, paste the license that should be for the ESXi. Click on next and finish. I will add one more license for my vCenter server. So click on next. Okay, so let me see if I have any more. Yeah, I already have that one. So let me go back to the host and cluster, go back to the configure vCenter server, going to the licensing. So vCenter server license has been assigned. That's good. So let's go to the individual host. Go to the licensing, click on assign license, select the ESXi, click on OK. Select this one, assign the license, select that one, click on OK. Select the third one, click on OK. So this will give an access to the vSAN, I guess. vSAN, where is vSAN? Say storage, APIs, vMotion, vSphere, HA. Okay, let me go back to the cluster now. Licensing data is not available, only cluster with enabled vSAN. I need to enable a vSAN. How? Settings, edit. Now this one is the DRS. Let me check with the high availability. Response failure data store with the admission control, heartbeat, advanced, nothing. Okay, let me enable that one. And also, yeah, it should give me the option to, let me go to the data center and see. No. Yeah, in the cluster itself, I should be having vCenters, vSAN cluster. Okay. Okay, let me enable the DRS also, just to make sure. Enable predictive DRS optional. No changes, nothing. Click on OK. Okay, this is still running. Cancel that one of those. All right, so all the cluster hosts and everything. So let me delete out the cluster itself because it is taking too long. I think that should also remove the host from the distributed switch. Okay. Yeah. So it is not completing that one. Yeah, it is not loading up. Alright, that's fine. So I will see if it is loading and completed, that's okay. If not, then I will reinstall the whole infrastructure, the new one. Alright, so I have installed the new vCenter server. The whole infrastructure is new. Nothing has been installed yet. So first what I will do is that I will assign the licenses first. So I will go to the menu, administrator, going to the licenses, click on add license. So this one should be for ESXi. Click on next and finish. And I will add one more license that will be for the vCenter server. So I will say vCenter. Click on next and finish. And now I will go back to host and cluster, go to vCenter server, go to configure, go to license and click on assign license. And I will select the vCenter server, click on OK. So license have been assigned now. So now let's add the data center. That should be TC1. And I will add the cluster. That should be CLU1. That's all done now. Let's add the host to the cluster. That should be on the add host. And that is 192.168.1.101. copy that one. So username will be root and the password which I have set up. Use the same credentials. It should be for 1 or 2 and that should be for 1 or 3. Click on next. Select all the 3 hosts. Click on OK. Click on next. And these 3 hosts will be connected to the cluster. So let's wait until the hosts are connected to the cluster. So I'm hoping that this time it should be pretty quick. Yep, it's adding now. So I have installed everything new. It's totally new infrastructure now. Alright, you see that it has went into maintenance mode. And if I expand that one, now they are into in maintenance mode. That's a good sign. Okay. So, yep, it's all good. Now click on configure. And I don't want to create a distributed switch right now. Click on next and click on next and finish. So now the cluster configuration should be completed. So 1 or 2 did not went into maintenance. Okay, that's all good. All right now, so that's all been set up now. So let's go ahead to data center and right click and create a new distributed switch. And I will say this one is VDS1. Click on next. So selecting the version, so click on next. For uplinks, that should be good. So I need one port group that is vSAN and finish. So I should have the distributed switch over here. And by default, I have created for the vSAN. If I go to distributed switch configure and the topology, this is what the topology right now looks like. So what I will do, I will create one more port group. So I will right click and create a port group, new distributed port group. This will be used for VMs for traffic. Click on exit and next and finish. And I should have one more port group added to this one now. So VM and vSAN. So now what I will do is that right click and I will add the host to this particular switch. Click on next, add the host, select all the hosts, click on OK, click on next, and I'm going to only assign VMNIC1. So click on assign to uplink 1, apply to all of them, and that's it. So I'm not doing anything to VMNIC0 because that is a management. As I said in the lab, I do not recommend that one. So click on next. And VMNIC VMK0, that is all good. Click on next. They don't have any virtual machine, so click on next and finish. That should be added to these particular VMs now. The host should be added now. All right, so now on this particular uplink one, you see that I do have 3 machines connected. That's all good now. Next, I will go to the host. I will add one VM kernel management NIC for the host so that I can utilize that for the vSAN. So I will click on this one, host, click on configure, go to VM kernel adapters, click on add networking. We say that VM kernel adapter and click on next, click on existing standard switch. So it is currently on the V switch 0, but if I select existing network, yep, I should see that vSAN is their port number. So in the existing network. So I will select that one, click on OK, click on next, and I will say that this one will be used for vSAN. Click on next. I will say static IP address that is 192.168.1.61 and subnet should be this one. Default gateway is good. Click on next and finish. Now I will do the same thing for the other host, add networking, VM kernel network adapter, select the existing because I have the distributed one. So click on OK, clicks next, select vSAN, click next, use the static IP address 192.168 1.62 and click on next and finish. I will do for the last one also, add networking, select existing network, select vSAN, OK, click next, select vSAN, click next, use static IP 192.168.1.63 and click on next and finish. So all the three networks have been added. So now if I go to virtual distributed switch, configure and topology. And now you should see that I should have three virtual VM kernel ports connected to this particular port group. So now everything seems to be good now. The only thing is that now we have to go to the configure, going to the storage. So if I click on the host, configure, go to the storage devices. As I said, 1 and 2 are unclaimed for now. So I will select the first one. I will mark it as the flash drive. I will do the same thing for the second one. First one I will mark it as a flash drive, and I will do the same one for the final one, that is mark it as the flash drive. Now on the cluster itself, if I come back and vSAN clustering, the licensing is not available, so though that is a reason I'm not able to configure it. Okay, but the vSAN cluster will be enabled. So you see that the vSAN license is not there, vSAN option is over here. So click on services now and you see that vSAN is turned off. So before it was not showing on, so now it is showing on, so that's good. Click on configure now. Single site clusters, single site cluster with custom fault domains, two node vSAN cluster and stretch cluster. Now these are the different types of installations. So single site means each host is considered to reside in its own fault domain. Single site cluster with custom domain, if you want to create your own custom fault domains without a witnessed host, you can do it. Two node vSAN, that means two hosts at a site and a witnessed host at the another site. As we, if you remember that in the vCenter server high availability, one was active, one was passive, and one was witnessing. Here is also same thing. So we do, you can say that two hosts, one is active and passive one, which will staying on the same side, and the witness can be on the different data center on a different cluster. Now on the stretch cluster, two active data sites and witness host at the third site. Similar, the same thing, witness host site contains only metadata and does not participate in storage operations. The witness host cannot be used to run the VMs. So a witnessed host is a virtual machine, is just for monitoring purpose only. So according to my topology, you can see that I do not have many of them. So that's why I will go with the single site cluster with automated with its own fault domain. So click on next. Now space efficiency, I will say that duplication and compression. So if you click on this one, duplication and compression improves the total cost of ownership by reducing the data stored on your physical disk. Deduplication and compression only works for all flash disk group, creating hybrid disks is not allowed. So I will select this one because it says that it's good. Data at rest encryption. So if you want to do encryption means the CPU usage will be more. So I do not recommend in the lab, but in the production, yes, if you have a lot of CPUs, then you can go ahead, because currently for my vCenter server, I have assigned only two virtual CPUs. That will be not enough, because encryption doing means you need a CPU power for that one. So once you enable that option, so now wipe residual data, key provider. So if you want to wipe the data, if it is not copied properly or something, you can automate that one. Allow reduce redundancy. If you see that one, by selecting the option, you agree that vSAN can reduce the protection level of your VMs if needed during the operation. So we do not require that one. Large scale cluster support, since this is a very, very small one, so I don't worry about it. So click on next. Claim disk now. So these are the disk. So I will say that this should be cache tier flashes. And this is also the cache tier. Okay, so once I selected this cache tire 1, 2, 3, and all the flash will be acting as a cache, and the another will be the capacity, all the other three. So I do have, if you remember that I do have two hard disks, 150 GB and 150 GB for all three hosts. So this of one is acting as a flash one, these are acting as a capacity tire. So this will be actually participating in the storage and everything. This one is only to get the cache to just run, what do we say, like cache means it's just hosting a temporary data over there. So that is being used for that one, flash. All right, so once that is been done, you can see that the claim is 900 GB total, and after out of that one, I think 150, 450, 450. So 450 will be capacity and 450 will be for the flash cache one. Recommended configuration, this is what it is recommended. So now group by disk model or size, if you click want to go by host, you can click on that one since everything is being seen over here. So everything is being done. So three hard disks as a cache tire acting as a flash, and three hard disks into the capacity tire acting as the actual storage. You see that this one, it says that while duplication and compression is enabled, cannot claim hard disk for the capacity tire. So I have to go back and I have to say none. So click on next. And now if I expand, I will say this one should be cache and this one should be capacity. Now it doesn't give me any error for that one. All right, so here is the one, capacity 450 GB and cache for 450 GB, 50%, 50%. That's all good. Click on next. And if you see that that's all good, click on finish. Okay, so it should start up the configuration. If not, this might be the reason fails to extract the requested data. Check vSphere client logs for details. Let me try to do it one more time. If it is not working, then that is the process of the vSAN. Click on next. So I will just not cache tire and the capacity tire. Click on next, next, and finish. All right, so now it is, yep, you see that it is showing up, but due to some error, it is not loading up properly. That's fine. But you see that it is showing the options. So let me take the screenshot. Okay, so I will take the screenshot of that one so that, okay, where is that screenshot? All right. So once that is been configured, the space efficiency should be over here and the vSAN should be turned off. And you should see that all the system, which whatever the options we have enabled, everything should be showing up, the status and everything. And our vSAN should be up and running. Now, once that is been done, so what happens is that if I right click on that one, click on add deploy a new OVF. So I will just go ahead and deploy it. So if I go back to the software and go back to the MikroTik, select that one, click on OK, click on next, data center. So I will say this one is MKT, click on next, and I will select the host. But you see that CLU, the cluster is itself is compatible. Click on next. After that one, when you go to the storage, this is where it will show you the vSAN storage. So that's where you select the vSAN storage and you will go ahead with the installation of that one. So click on next and you see that it is not showing me any storage right now because that is being not configured. If that has been configured properly, you would have seen the vSAN storage over here. You would have selected that one. Also, you have selected the clean provision. Click on next and you would have completed your configuration. All right. So that's it with the vSAN. So vSAN will give you like a centralized, what do we say, storage solution for you. But again, vSAN also, it doesn't mean that the storage should be only on the ESXi, because virtual SAN actually means that you can store your data or access your data over your network. So again, this is the virtual SAN. I hope this was informative for you, and thank you.